the science of mind-body transformation in your heart beats in a steady rhythm. It creates a powerful magnetic field that can extend up to 3 meters wide around your body. This creates an interesting combination. Your heart produces this broad magnetic base, while your brain operates more on electrical patterns. Think of your thoughts as electrical charges that carry your intentions. When you send these signals out into the world, you need to feel the emotion before it actually happens in reality. When you get your heart beating in a coherent, steady pattern and combine it with clear thinking, you start to attract experiences toward you. The fascinating thing is that when your personal energy matches with some possibility that exists in the quantum field, something you haven't experienced yet, you don't have to go anywhere or do anything to get it. In our normal three-dimensional world, we're used to being physical matter trying to change other physical matter. But when you're creating from this energy field instead of just from physical action, events and opportunities tend to come to you rather than you having to chase after them. Here's how it all connects. Your heart broadcasts magnetic signals while your brain sends out electrical information. When you align both of them around a clear intention combined with an elevated, positive emotion, the next step becomes obvious. You have to practice it. You need to install this new way of being and become familiar with it. It's not enough to just feel inspired for 5 minutes. You must condition your brain and body every single day to think and feel as if you're already living in that future you want. When old thought patterns show up and your body starts acting like it did in the past, that's when the real work begins. That's the moment when you remind yourself that this is exactly when you're changing. As you start planning new behaviors and thinking about a new way of being, and as you mentally rehearse how you're going to live each day, research shows something remarkable happens. When you begin rehearsing in your mind, your brain actually starts to look like the experience has already happened. Once you begin installing these new neurological circuits, you're essentially putting new hardware in place. In your brain, if you keep revisiting these new thought patterns, the nerve cells that fire together begin to wire together. You start installing a new software program and priming your brain for the future. You're literally warming your brain up for new possibilities. If you practice this every day, it becomes familiar to you. Imagine asking yourself how a mystic, a saint, a holy person, or a great leader would live their day. As you begin teaching your body emotionally what that future would feel like, you're getting ahead of the actual experience. Your body, which is essentially your unconscious mind, begins to believe it's living in that future reality right now. In the present moment, you're signaling new genes in new ways because the chemical feedback you're creating through thought alone gives your body literally new information. When this happens, your body begins living in the future. Once those genes receive these new signals, they make new proteins, and now your body is prepared for the event before it even happens. If you practice loving kindness, compassion, strength, conviction, empowerment, invincibility, and self-love every single day, cultivating these chemical states and practicing them over and over again, they begin to become familiar to you. Now, when both your heart and brain are coherent, you're broadcasting a very specific signature into the energy field around you. This brings us to the next important question. Can you hold that coherence when it's no longer easy? When you sit down and meditate and your body starts getting impatient, when your mind wants to wander and all those old programs begin to surface, that's your initiation. That's the moment when the old self shows up asking to be noticed. And it's your opportunity to stay present and overcome it. Let's say you're sitting in meditation tomorrow and you notice yourself getting frustrated or impatient. What brainwave patterns are you moving into? You're moving into what's called high beta brainwaves. If you find yourself thinking things like, when is this going to be over? I don't know if I can do this any longer. I'm tired. When is this session going to end? And you start thinking that way, asking yourself, am I doing this right? And analyzing yourself and your life. You've just moved into beta brainwave patterns. You're moving away from the operating system where true change actually takes place. But what if you noticed you were getting vigilant or impatient and became aware that you were doing that? What if you realized that this was just your body and mind being conditioned the wrong way? And you settled your body back down into the present moment and surrendered back into possibility. Every time you do that, you're tempering your body, training it and reconditioning it to a new mind while liberating energy. This has been measured over and over again in research. Don't think that when you're sitting there and your body is raging, telling you that you can't do it, it's too hard, you want to quit, you can't handle this, and you're sitting there observing those thoughts without putting your attention behind them. Don't think you're not in the process of change. Every time you overcome just that one thought, you are no longer firing and wiring the same circuits in your brain. You're no longer emotionally signaling the same genes in the same way. You're liberating energy. and your body is being freed from the chains of the past. Every time you catch yourself going unconscious and settle your body back into the present moment, you're teaching it a lesson. I'm in charge now, not the past, not the emotion, not the old program. Once you're no longer reacting to the same thoughts, the same feelings, and the same memories, now you're ready to install something new, a new thought, a new mind. Every time you fire that new thought with intention, you're literally beginning to rewire your brain for a new future. The moment you turn on all those circuits, you produce what's called an internal representation, which is an intention. You get a picture in your mind, and the clearer you are and the more you learn, the more you can refine that picture. Here's a fundamental principle: if nerve cells that fire together wire together, then nerve cells that no longer fire together no longer wire together. It's called the universal law of use it or lose it. This is the science of changing your mind, or, as you might think of it, throwing out the mental trash. Let's walk through an example. You're going to think a new thought like I am healthy, I am happy, I'm in love with life. You're going to signal a new set of neurons in your brain and activate a new network. Imagine this as a blue neuron. This represents your new thought. You're going to say I am compassionate, or I am happy, or I am joyful, or I'm in love with life. You close your eyes, begin the internal process, and start firing that thought. But there's one problem. You have all these other circuits firing at the same time. In the midst of firing this new thought called I am happy, or I am joyful, or I'm compassionate, you have all these other voices going on saying things like you're not very happy, you're a loser, you're too much like your mother, you'll never change, look at you failing miserably. What about that pain in your back? All of those voices are old circuits firing and wiring in your brain. Fortunately, we have an amazing faculty as human beings, our will. Our will is connected to our spirit. If you keep firing that new thought over and over again, keep insisting that this is the thought you want front and center stage in your mind, this new thought will become the loudest voice and the loudest signal in your brain. The moment this becomes the loudest signal in your brain, something interesting happens with the nerve impulses. You have the impulse firing in one direction, but you also have what you might think of as glue that keeps neurons connected. And this glue can change direction when you keep firing the new thought and it becomes the loudest thought in your mind. That thought, I am joyful or I am compassionate, becomes louder than all those other voices, because this is now the strongest signal the nerve cell has to wire to this one and connect itself. But there's only a certain amount of this connecting material to go around. So it starts to take the connection strength from the neighboring circuits to connect this new circuit. As it begins to connect this new circuit, it begins to disconnect the other circuits because you're no longer paying attention to those old thoughts. As you continue to fire and wire this new circuit, there goes the voice saying you're too much, like your mother. There goes the voice about the pain in your back. There goes the voice saying you'll never change. Suddenly, the only signal traveling to this neuron is joy. In neuroscience, this process is called pruning. And this is exactly what happens during transformation. Think about this carefully. Everywhere a neuron connects to another neuron creates what we call a memory. If those circuits are pruned apart, then the memory of the old self literally no longer exists. Where is that memory stored once this happens? The wisdom becomes part of your soul, and that's the name of the game. Once the old circuits start falling apart, and the new ones begin to dominate the landscape of your mind, you're no longer defined by memories of your past. Instead, you're being defined by a vision of your future. Here's where the magic happens. If your brain is wired to look like the event has already happened, and your body is feeling the emotions of that future experience, then you're no longer waiting for the experience to feel the feeling. You're feeling the feeling to create the experience. This leads to an important question. Can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but that you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain has literally changed to look like the experience has already occurred? The answer is absolutely yes, it's possible. Can you emotionally embrace a future potential that already exists in the quantum field so many times that your body, as your unconscious mind, begins to believe it's living in that future right now in the present moment? Can you condition your body to signal new genes in new ways, so that your body begins to change to look like the experience has already occurred? Absolutely. Think about what this means. If your brain and body are physically changed ahead of the actual experience, you've just moved from living in your past to living in your future. In fact, you are ahead of your time. When you successfully apply this new way of thinking, your brain and body are no longer a record of the past. They become a map to the future. To live by this understanding is to live by what we might call the quantum law. The quantum law says that your environment is an extension of your mind. if you truly change your mind, there should be evidence of that change showing up in your life. This isn't just positive thinking or wishful thinking. This is about creating real, measurable changes in your brain and body that prepare you for the future you want to experience. The key is consistency and practice. Every day, you need to rehearse being the person you want to become. You need to think the thoughts and feel the emotions of your future self until they become more familiar to you than the thoughts and emotions of your past self. This is how you literally rewire your brain and recondition your body for a new reality. When you master this process, you're not just hoping things will change. You're becoming the change. You're not waiting for your environment to shift so you can feel better. You're changing your internal environment first, and then watching your external world reorganize itself to match your new internal state. This is the science of personal transformation, and it's available to anyone willing to do the daily work of becoming someone new. Is script key prompts chia.